Welcome back to the Authentic Human podcast. And today, my guest is Matt Garret. And Matt is welcome, Matt. Thank you
Nice
for
to
being
meet you.
here.
Thank you. It's
Matt
lovely.
is typically from the UK, and right now he's traveling, and you are in
Chile.
Chile. Oh, up in the mountains.
Yeah. So if you know Santiago, it's kind of like the Andes go all the way up, but I've gone up to La Serena and then in. So there's this magic valley here that I was exploring because I just typed in there's this very specific spot I had to go to, and I went there and it's all been done, so it's good. And now I'm just enjoying the last week, and then I'm going back to England after that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that when even your travel is following your heart. That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. I'm so excited to have you here. Um, and you know, you get to choose today what kind of experience you want to have in our conversation. So we can start it. I have a feeling our conversation's gonna be like the mountains. It's and a journey and a travel. But you can start it in either way. I can start to share messages from your soul, or if you have specific questions that you want to ask, and they can be about your journey, they can be about the universe and existence, or it's just anything, then they'll share. And if it is some one of those bigger questions, maybe give a little bit of background so that our listeners and our viewers can have an understanding of where you are right now in your journey.
Mm.
How's that
Beautiful.
feel?
I love it because it's unique as well. Like it's different to, it's just a new framework, right? Like, and I love it. So we started today speaking about the full moon, and I think it's perfect because it brings up intensities, right? That often are shadows. And my passion at the moment is really, I think of ceilings, right? And within the distorted masculine or this kind of pursuit for more, for more, there's always this it tends to be a seed within everyone trying to break out, right? Trying to break out as if freedom isn't always here. But still there is this visceral feeling. And every time this full moon comes up, everything that doesn't want freedom comes to the surface, right? So here, especially, there's been like, what's actually passionate? Is it just to completely break free over and over? And that is what is wanted, but it's almost like the phrase that I want to come up with is the addiction to that smallness, the addiction to the fixation on the old paradigms of uh, not feeling free, right? So what kept coming up here was actually frustration of being in humanity. And this sounds, and I know you resonate with this because I've watched your videos, and I don't want to sound. It's easy to be basically projected onto this what I'm about to say, but when you see so clearly the addiction to smallness, you see so clearly the juice of uh, basically staying under the blanket of gravity, of collective gravity. You, the infinity you see in yourself is then only what you see in others, and the frustration here is being sometimes feeling a lack of empathy, but realizing that if someone is to step up, suddenly there is this complete empathy because you see that you're ready to meet them in the infinity that they know themselves to be. So, in a long-winded way of saying, basically, at the moment, what I'm dealing with is why am I here? Because the purpose isn't linear anymore. The purpose isn't within the framework of timeline. If anything, this is a detonation job of linearity and the fixation on healing, if I'm going to be honest with you as
Yep.
well. Because the word healing has nothing to do with the 20th century concept that we were given as a bridge to nonlinearity. So the frustration here, which I think is a great thing. I think growing up, you're told to be serene, to be peaceful, to be quiet, to get peaceful. But hold on, you get claustrophobic in the old frameworks. And you look to the people that came before, the only reason people burst through is because they didn't put up with the smallness that they were given on a plate. So I'm basically at the moment I'm finding this middle way because you can basically throw your toys out the pram and say humanity's all of this, it's all of that. But at the end of the day, we chose to incarnate at this time. Like we can't play the victim of, oh, look at me, I'm so free, and they're just in their ways. It's almost like, well, why am I here? Because I'd rather go off to the next whatever. It's not like a feeling of not wanting to be here out of negativity. It's like the world becomes too small, and not enough people want truth sometimes, which sometimes feels so. I'm trying to open my heart at the moment, basically, to humanity as a whole,
Yep.
and not let myself get down when you sort of open yourself, and no matter what you say, some people just don't want to be free.
Yep.
So this is, and I like this space because I can be vulnerable about sometimes I just don't want to be here.
Yep.
Because I love life so much, and people
Yep.
sometimes don't. So yeah, it's not a negative note. I'm so positive about the future, but really about the deconstruction of what future means. That's what.
Yes. And that's what I feel like. That's what I 100% think you. That is, you have such a lovely way of describing how you feel and simultaneously how you see the world inside and separate, but also inside of what you're feeling. So thank you for that. That's an amazing gift. What I'm feeling so much from what you're sharing is, how can I be all of me inside of a world that only wants 20% or maybe 25 at the most? And that's their comfort level. And you're like, I need to be the 100% because that's what I've been working on. That's what I've been cultivating. That's what I've been moving towards. Um, and that's the part of your heart that feels sadness. It's, I don't want to be here in a world where I can't be all of me because I'm too much for others who just aren't ready yet to, have that. And they may never be ready. And so there's a few different, so Jesus is coming in. And, you know, Jesus as a, I don't love the word guide because most people misuse that word, and they have a misunderstanding of what it means, right? But you understand, like a guide is someone that you connect with energetically and feel their wisdom, and it becomes a part of who you are, right? Like that's what a guide is. It's not someone who tells you what to do with your brain and you're like, oh, okay, those are the steps. I need to do this and I need to go wash my face and then brush my teeth. Like it doesn't work like that, right? It's this feeling of, coming in from the cold is how he'll explain it. There's also a number of angelics here. And you have a really deep connection with the second stream of angelics. So the second stream are those, like these are the angelics who created experience. Okay, so the first stream created matter and our ability to have uh, the opportunities of physical ex
Mhm.
experience. This is what happens when it starts to twist. The energy goes faster than my tongue can go. So ultimately, your relationship with the second stream of angelics is very strong. And there's one being in particular. So the first one created, he's the highest of that. And names are, they don't transcend. So it doesn't really matter at this point, because humans put a label on it and then they'll use fear or their own beliefs. So we're not even going to, we can talk about that off camera, you and I separately after. But I don't want to, there's certain things that they're saying it's not appropriate to share because then there would be misunderstandings and we don't want to create misunderstandings. So if you feel his energy, that's the most important. He's here and he wants you to understand, um, you know, okay, so first he wants to bring our viewers and our listeners into an understanding of what light energy actually is, because light has nothing to do with good and dark is bad. You know that, you understand that, but this particular being says this is vitally important to the understanding that will allow humanity to move forward. Humanity is still at a loss of understanding of light and dark. This is
Mhm.
why they can't move forward. That's what
Mhm.
he's saying. it's um it's the one thing that's holding everyone back right now. And for those who can know the difference,
Hmm.
they've been able to move beyond that bridge. And
Hmm.
they've been able to pierce the veil, so to speak, and step into their wholeness and fullness, which is what you've done um, immaculately well, is how they're sharing. So, it's being able to rejoice in the recognition, and it's not, oh, you're so great, Matt. It's a recognition of you're being honored for the effort that you've put in with this life, in spite of the challenges and the diversity that you've needed to not only overcome, but deal with as well, because there's so many depths of fear that you have to overcome, judgment, jealousy. And the levels of that have been the most draining on your journey. They're showing me, as you go up, it's like literally climbing the side of a mountain. And as you go up, and it's like you scale to a new community level. And what I mean by community is, you meet new levels of conscious universal beings and you hang out with them and you learn their wisdom and then you share that wisdom. And when it's time for you to go to the next, you have both those who don't want to let you go. They want to hold on to you and they want you to stay where they are because they're not ready to go. And then you also have the people at the next level who are like, oh no, you're not ready for this. So there's a whole lot of human-esque aspects that you've had to overcome. And it's really beautiful because what I keep seeing is your compass is always north, but your north is this is my journey. And I just have to keep going in spite of everyone else's opinions around me. And that's, as a human being, the greatest challenge we will
Yeah.
ever have to achieve. And you're quite incredible at it. And that's what Jesus also wanted to highlight is the recognition of your journey. I mean, he knows because he came here and participated in a similar way. And so, that he says the difference is um, your journey, there's a higher awareness, there's a higher level of awareness than when he was here because you well, there's a bunch of reasons. Number one is humanity is meant to go further now than it was then, but you've also chosen to be a leader. And here's the thing, humanity has a really skewed viewpoint of what a leader really is. And that's when you were asking, why do I exist right now? Like what's happening? It's that leadership role that's what you're struggling with. It's that how do I
Hmm.
find the courage, find the wherewithal to continue to go to the depths that I'm meant to and still live in this physical world as a human and a soul who's sharing the level of vibration that I'm at with those who are not yet interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah, strange how it's as if you're reading off as if it's just exactly what feels here but cannot be verbalized, basically. So, like I said before, it's so important with the humility of knowing that people come together for their own skill sets to produce what is a much. I mean, you get what you ask for, right? So, yes, if I can say one thing, the grief was never about my own grief or anyone else. And in all of us, it's not our own grief. It's almost like all I see is like an innocent child, right? Not knowing why no one else is going the same way, where everyone is, but almost just to a speed, right? So, first of all, we don't want to fall into victimhood at all. We're all here, like we're here for a reason, right? It's easy to blame the world. People don't want to go as fast as me. I'm going so quick. It's more just getting over our own bullshit of what doesn't work, but seeing that the grief is still there because even in this last month, for example, people that I've walked alongside, just violent reactions, right? Violent outbursts. And you're sat there thinking, this must be something wrong with the human, right? The fear of arrogance is the only, really the final card up the sleeve of the ego is to say you're being too much, you know.
I do.
The same for all of us. Like, it's always the same thing. This is why it's universal. That's why when you go through whatever you go through, like here, the frustration, the grief is seeing someone in their stuff, and you can only really have that tough love when you've released it. So the grief here I can feel is those connections. If you try and cling to them, the ones that want to stay where they are, because we're all where we're at because we choose, then it's like, right, release the grief. Grief is there. It can be indulgent, but at the same time it can be honored. But then it's like, right, outside of this body, it doesn't matter because we see we have access to all things. It doesn't really matter. When that veil is so thin, the humanness is honored, but then it's like, right, now what? Because part of you has been between the veils so much that one of the things that you put in, especially in a later stage, is remember not to care about certain things because you've cared a lot in the past in other incarnations. And in this one, it's going to serve you so much quicker to honor it and release, and to find this masculine feminine balance, which isn't about they're all bad. It's almost as if you start to meet those that are even more alignment when you don't. And the grief very quickly turns into excitement because all grief is a suppressed love. It's because you have so much in you that wants to just do it that that has nowhere to go. So it sort of dwindles in itself. But then when you do find an avenue, so I've been working with beings which they're just so much beyond humanity that it's like finally this energy that is being put in the bottom of the spine to push through
Yep.
now has a channel to flow. So for me, it's not about working through the grief. It's, well, how can we channel that frustrated energy that has been like a rocket to come through and to work with beings really discarding old definitions, old linearities, old ways of defining yourself as whatever it is, and to be open to be receive what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Because yeah, things like leadership and stuff, in my bones, I know something's coming, and I just have to receive it and also work with people that are on a similar level because there are people that I see across who are also in so much awareness. This is why it can feel so lonely when the awareness is there and you meet someone like you or you meet someone across the thing and it's like you just want to talk and say everything you've been discovering because anyone else they just sort of switch off, right?
Yep.
Or they reject. So the final thing I say as well is the deepest learning here has been to also respect the projectors because they're doing the best with what they see.
Yep.
But how am I supposed to serve if I take it personally, right?
Right.
Take it on as our own. So the final thing was always about this narcissistic fear, always, right?
Yes.
It's ingrained from religion.
Yep.
Because part of my being remembers a past life of actually forming religions in those early years with Yeshua and then watching them completely become a beast and then thinking that you did it, but you planted the seed. Now, how humanity waters that seed is not, you don't have to take full um, blame for how it's watered, but there are still mistakes that can go along, which then you take on as your own. But so much you're just feeding the collective
Okay.
uh, density.
So I I love talking to you. It's wonderful. I love it because it fills my heart and it flows and it's beautiful. Yes. So
It's going to turn this heat.
yeah, we're in the middle of a heat wave over here. I've got air conditioning on and you've got heat. I love it.
The Andes, the Andes is the energy here is so crazy because we're in a valley where the microclimate is just 26 or whatever Fahrenheit, like 100 Fahrenheit, and down to like 30. It's just, oh, I don't know what it is, but it's just, yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
insane.
Well, and I don't know about you, but on my journey, since I was 17, I remember since I was 17, when I'm in energy, I'm sweating
Mhm.
always. And so it doesn't matter what the temperature is. It could be boiling hot, it could be freezing cold. I'm still going to be sweating because it's part of the way that the brain processes what's happening and the energy that's coming in. So it's quite fascinating. And I think that also that is a lot to do with the physical aspects, but we'll go into that another time. What I want to really focus on is it's really cool because as you started explaining how you were feeling, what they were showing me right away is your greatest challenge right now is being able to move forward in spite of what's coming at you. Okay. And you spend a lot of time apologizing, but it doesn't look like apologizing. And why, and what you do is you will set it up before as I don't want to be egotistical or, please don't take this the wrong way. You're apologizing before you even say the words. And what they're sharing is that's the part that's done. And that's the part inside of you that's, if I don't do that, these people are going to get more upset. They're going to get more angry. They're going to get themselves more out of joint, so to speak. And you know, what these beings that are here and your soul is, you're ready and it's time. And the time for apologizing is done. It's recognition that your relationship, what you've been building over the past 9 months to a year and a half, is really about your relationship with compassion. And compassion is one of the 9 fundamentals that humans were created with. And compassion is deep recognition of where we are at and where others are at with zero expectations.
Mm.
And now it's allowing that embodiment to come out. So as you're sharing your wisdom, don't don't make an excuse for the work you've done, for the depths that you've gone into the soul of the universe and you've extracted that wisdom, because that downplays who you are. And like you were just saying, when you downplay yourself, you can't you can't lift others up to where they're meant to be because you're still worried that it's going to get lost in translation. And it's that you can feel that, right? You can feel that it's time to deepen your trust with the journey that you're on because you're meant to share great wisdom and you're meant to share the secrets of existence. And you know that you have the ability to go in and you're retrieving them. But when what people need to understand is when you retrieve wisdom, you're going in and you become that wisdom. You're immersed in it for however long, sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years. So you build a relationship with that wisdom that allows you to embody it.
Mm.
And what they're saying is you're apologizing for that. Do you see
Yeah.
how that doesn't work now? You've
Mm.
spent all this time and energy to go in and to learn the depths of something. It's like you go into a cave that is complete with that energy, energetically speaking, and you immerse yourself in it. You steep every conversation you have, every interaction you have with anyone, every experience is immersed in that. And then you become it. And it's really cool because sometimes you'll see, and you go back, you must have a way, you have a YouTube channel, so that, and you are sharing the wisdom as you're receiving it. And then there becomes a moment where it could be the last 8 years or 9 years, and all of a sudden all these pieces come in and they make sense, right? It's like I'm going to share bits here, but that's the level, that's how humans were created to learn, by immersing themselves in experience. And you have nailed it. You have embodied it. You have become that. And
Mm.
that gift to humanity, it can't get out of you if you keep apologizing for doing it, because that's the gift you're meant to guide others to be able to use, is to immerse themselves in universal energy with a freedom and an abandon that allows them to become it. You create that space for yourself, Matt, but it's time for you to show others how to create that space for themselves. it's not that we don't care. It's, it's not learning how not to care what others think because you'll always care because that's who you are. That's who you were created to be. That's why you're in the role you're in. But it's recognition that you're not meant to carry their judgment. That's different than caring about them, right? And to your point, whatever they have coming at you, it's a reflection of where they are. And the universe wanted you to see where they are so that you can know how best to act and react. Because if someone's coming at you with anger, it's time to move on. You don't have time for that, but you don't need to apologize anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot coming together, which
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
really good. And it also feels detached from emotion in a good way. So can you see
Yes.
how the human, I've got two ears right now. We all have two ears, and the human can hear that, and the soul can hear it. And the human has tried many times to make things about itself, which is fine. And if anything, we've only gotten this far because we haven't tried to remove the human, right?
Yep.
So that's so beautiful to have. But then it comes into this reaffirming of the experiences chosen to create a sense of evolutionary tension within the intention to master being within a certain frequency and still choosing what you know. So that's what it feels like here is the temptation keeps coming up, right? The embarrassment of wisdom, the embarrassment of awareness, because you know if you're to even open to someone that their whole life will fall apart if they want it as well. But it's not in this courageous way because courage to me doesn't make sense, right? It's almost like you only do something because nothing else works and everything else is too painful. So it's almost as if it's been attempted for so long to basically try and meet people in the hole rather than standing outside the hole. But the funny thing is, all the teachings that are coming through at the moment are about standing out the side of the hole. But what's catching up is the embodiment of teaching that, right? Because there is no black and white, right? We're always shifting between either coming from the human, just so we can relate on that stuff. What I'm really interested in is keeping that open always to be an explanation through demonstration, right? I'm done with words. Because what's always trying to come through as well is that we keep coming back every root race, right? And they always blow themselves up. Every time they blow themselves up. So in this one, it was we're coming out of the most dense we're going to be in the physical body. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I knew this lifetime was about lightening it up. Not just, which is funny because lightening up in terms of the only way I can really teach as well is through humor because the human bullshit, I'm sorry if I swear, is a complete joke and it's funny and it's the only way it transmutes. But also lightening up in terms of everything's getting lighter because the next human race will be quasi-physical over time. So here as well, there's been the absolute passion and the love of basically the archetype of the jester, right? And cracking it open, but sometimes not actually trusting that because it doesn't seem full of empathy. And so a seriousness comes online, like you say, to apologize for basically the image of a child running through a forest laughing at everything because he sees it's all a dream and he wants others to laugh as well. It's all archetypes, right? So I'm also seeing from above the journey. But what's so interesting is that this evolutionary tension, I wouldn't have it any other way. Because how are you supposed to know what you want through the contrast without first being so apologetic for who you are? And like many people who are listening today, it's all different themes of the same thing. It feels so much like a ball has been so tightened and it just wants to go straight. And the guilt as well, because I think the word guilt is so important here because guilt is so Moorish.
Huh.
Like what I've come here as well, and sometimes I also add in like as many of us are because I think it makes me look less egotistical. But if I just talk from my passion for a moment without guilt, we're here to blow things up in a way, right? And one thing that's being blown up is this strange fixation on healing as if you can't talk about trauma unless it's in a soft way. Because there's so much place for softness. I think it's so important. But do you see? I want to bring something up here, which is also quite controversial, but I think it's really important. So now, do you remember when the transgender movement started getting really a lot in the limelight, and you weren't, and there were certain things we were looking at, certain like age children, for example, that you weren't allowed to speak about because of trauma or something, and then only now do we look back and say, and I'm all for transgender, when you got the age. I'm just using an example. But now we're seeing how silly it was to not speak up about things that you weren't supposed to speak about. And now it's really causing people harm, right?
Yep.
In where they're at. So now I'm in a similar position where I look at people in their trauma, they're talking at me about their stories, their trauma. And it's almost like we want to come through with a whole new definition of what trauma is, because there's trauma which is trauma, and then there's stories which people label to stay in linearity, to stay in an identity of journey. So here it's been so freeing, and I'm sort of tiptoeing in it because I don't want to ever push someone the other way. But the passion is to trust that you're here to disrupt that paradigm in particular, because it's holding so much of humanity within the physical body
Yes.
of a denser story of basically the only thing I want to say is linearity. Because in
Yeah.
linearity, there is a fixation on story structure. Outside of this veil, stories don't make sense because you
Yep.
have access to things. There's no sequence of events. So Earth is so interesting because they've invented really in the way that they can relate to others and have a memory of before and after of story structure. And it's keeping everyone up until this ceiling point.
Yep.
Once you burst through it, you never go back because you see that you can come into storage, you can honor stories, but then that becomes your downfall if that's all you know is the Carl Jung archetype that was a bridge to here.
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, the one thing that feels true here is that I will start to soften as because at the moment I'm in a very teenage mentality, right? I'm very aware of that. It's very much the world is stuck in their ways. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on myself again, but what I'm looking for is this real starting to honor their journey and to stop getting so frustrated with that part of the path, and to basically demonstrate rather than having just to try and convince them that they don't need to do that stuff.
Yeah. So you just said a whole bunch of amazing things. I feel like we could talk for days and days and never be bored. Um,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna go back to the beginning where you shared about guilt. To me, guilt is extremely selfish.
Yeah.
It is guilt says, I want to suck up all this energy and I'm going to hold it in my space. And it's absolutely useless. You know, and when we can embody that, right? When we really can own the fact that guilt is just our idea of who we think we should be and what we think we should have done, we allow ourselves to open to compassion because compassion, again, has no expectations. So if it has no expectations, then there's also no judgment. So it allows you the freedom to be yourself, to share who you are, and you're moving into a you're moving into a new level of existence, right? And so it's going to be less teaching. It's going to be about embodying. And that's the part that is in your brain. How is this going to work? Where are the pieces going to fit? You know, how am I going to still serve while also meeting my own fulfillments and the things that you need to fulfill your ability to continue on your journey with the freedom, right? And what I mean by freedom is in the way that you have, right? So that you can still go deeply into each aspect of existence that you're meant to explore. And so what's happening is your mind, your brain, the human side really wants to be able to explain it first so that others are prepared for the changes that are coming in your space and what that means to them. And again, that's another example actually of how you're setting it up beforehand so that they're not upset. And what this angelic is sharing, and he's the highest of the second stream. So this is extremely significant. And what he is saying is you're not honoring them. You're not allowing them the possibility of coming with you because you're worried that they may not understand you. And for those of us who struggle through this enlightenment journey and being a leader, and a leader simply means those who can see more before others. That's, a leader is one who can see it and allow others to share in what they see and feel and experience. And your journey in this capacity is changing, it's shifting because it's less about telling your story and it's more about sharing the opportunity to experience what you're offering. So, yes, there'll be less words, but really, when you get onto the other side and you get deeply into it, there'll be more words because the words will mean more. They'll have a higher vibration, and the way they weave together will be completely different. It'll be with different energy, different vibration. And that's the part for you right now. It's terrifying. It's, terrifying in the sense of who am I going to be when I allow myself to fully embrace it? Because it means I have to let go of this other part of me that I've been for so long that got me out of the depths of sadness and anger and where you were when you started this journey. And now it's this, you have to grow. And as much as that's exciting, and it's the thing that you've been working towards, and to your point of the courage is the ability to keep going in spite of everything that comes at you, right? And you've done that. And now you're here and the reward is here and you're about to accept your greatness, but you keep apologizing to everyone else for accepting it. And what they're saying is you're going to become a role model for accepting your own greatness. Can you feel the difference in that, Matt? It's less about recognition of the journey and the awakening and all the things that you're seeing. Now it's stepping into accepting your greatness. Can you feel that?
Yes, it's worlds apart in terms of the image in mind is basically you have a raft, right? And on the left, everyone's speaking Portuguese, and on the right, everyone's speaking Mandarin. At the moment, you're trying to translate, and you're almost doing so from sometimes with inferiority. You really want people to make sure they understand that they see, right? Because when you
Yes.
see so clearly, you want to make sure that okay. I mean, you should see my comments and emails. It gets too much sometimes, right?
Yep.
Just things thrown, and you think if you saw what I saw, you would be right here too. And the if there's any inferiority here, if there's any fear here about self-trust, any slither of self-doubt will make you want to make sure that they see, right? So again, apologies to him. So with full honoring of that, your point around it's a subtle dishonoring of them is so true because anyone can say, well, you're not seeing what I see. Or the victimhood in a teacher would say, point, 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 you don't see what I see. But here, there's just, okay, that's still there, obviously. There's still a temptation there. But to actually just be it rather than to say it provides, which is you sort of flitter between them, but to illuminate the being as look, it's safe to do so, no matter what you throw at me, because the human will always be upset. I'm not here to become invincible, right? But what I'm here to do is trust the part of myself that knows to speak. Basically, I want to keep bringing up the non-linearity because there are so many memories, especially in South America, right, where they just activate. It's just you walk to, I'm told to go to a specific place on a specific day. I'm there, the beings are there, activate, shoot up the spine, right? And it's like a new level of sobering.
Yes.
So what happens is the first part was the masculine feminine union, which had to be taken on because that's almost like laying down teachings to come, like Yeshua did, right? But then it's this way, right? The planetary cosmic union, right? So it was the linear and the non-linear, the earthly animalistic energies, which are so grounding and so in, but then also the wound really of remembering what it was like to try and open up to those and make sure others understand that I'm not leaving them, right? We're trying
You're
to
not. Yeah. It has nothing to do with them. That's
exactly.
really what it comes down to.
And the victim playing as a teacher is to basically pretend like you know the ball and chain on your leg, because that chain isn't there unless you focus on it and you blame it.
Yep.
So secretly deep down, as well as guilt being selfish, so is blame. So is blaming them for hanging on to my ankles, right? Because they're not on my ankles. I don't have ankles unless I really want to tell them that they can affect this. So what's coming here is a maturity to say, I honor you, but I'm actually not giving you the bridge if I keep speaking in Portuguese and trying to relate and trying to prove myself. Because
It-
maturity is trying to prove that you see something and that they're
yeah.
narcissistic. I say narcissistic because that's what keeps coming in the comments.
Yes.
Is actually, look, honoring it, but it's just creating a container for this more volatility because you don't trust that they don't need to see if they don't want to see. They'll hear if they want to hear, but you've got to embody that in totality
Yep.
rather than trying to keep bridging it and trying to keep blaming them as well and playing some kind of, oh, I'm so much further than you. It's actually fear that drives that and doubt in self.
Yep.
Having
And
having prove
but
it.
here's the other thing, Matt, is you created that dynamic that allows them to come in and use those words. And that's the fear of them. You are so worried that they're going to think you think you're better than them, that you've created that space where they have the opportunity to treat you that way. Do you see
Backfires.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why what they're saying is it's about embodying where you're going, right? Instead of needing to even have the conversations about making it okay for them. So
Yeah.
instead of apologizing before you do something or when you're doing it or after you're saying it, it's taking a deep breath and go, I'm just going to say this and I'm just going to do this now because I feel it. The energy's here. This is what I'm meant to share. I'm not going to apologize anymore.
Could I ask a question as well? Because if
100%.
you look at the recent videos, for example, they are on paper unapologetic, right? So the energy is of a lot of the time no bullshit, but still underneath that, there's been so many videos that stay private on my channel because it seems as though you've gotten a bit too big for your boots here, and you're going to be perceived in a certain way. But here it feels as though it feels as though there's no issue on one level, right? And it feels as though this is all so fun to play, but it's like what you've given as well is a bit more context around the next step because it's not as if we ever give each other new lessons. It's if you've just confirmed a step that was already being taken, but didn't fully trust the foot on the ground, right?
Yep. So what is it really that you're feeling? Why are those videos hidden?
Fear of narcissism.
You got it. Fear of being addressed, fear of it being taken that way,
Mm.
right?
It's the same exact theme throughout the whole life.
You got it. And it's since you were 3 years old. Two, there's something happened when you were two, and you have carried it ever since. It's literally like a boulder, and a boulder that's twice as big as you, and you carry it. And there are times where you have a hard time breathing. When you go into a deeper connection with universal energy, it's interesting because they'll show me your breathing allows you, your breathing is what determines the depth you're going to go into that energy. And what they're saying is That's a result of this boulder that you carry it and you determine with your mind, okay, this is safe. I can keep going. Nope. Okay. I'm going to pull back. And as an aside on that, I will say, when you hit your next one, you send me an email personally and we will do a one-on-one through that energy so you can go in to the depths that you're meant to, and I will just walk you right through it because you know how to do this, Matt. You're just not trusting because you're so worried about hurting others. And that's not compassion. That is fear. And we put it in a pretty box that says I'm being compassionate, I'm being thoughtful, and I'm being kind to others.
Selfish. If you can't accept, because look, this is completely different paradigms to old compassion, whatever. But here, it's like taking the only reason you can get this fast, as a few of us are in this such density, is taking full responsibility, right? Not because it's courageous. Again, I think maybe
It just is. It
it's too
just
painful.
is. Yes.
Yeah,
You, it's your
yeah.
greatness, Matt.
It's the dialing it down over and over again. And then even the narcissistic fears that come up here to even say that. So the funny thing is that so much of it has been released, right? And through the full moons, this is perfect why we always talk at the specific right times, is everything feels more intense on its way out. So the funny thing is I gifted myself a life that seems like privilege, but isn't, which is really funny because it seems this way. The place I was put, right, with the accent, even though if you have to look at my actual like framework, I never paid a penny for education, none of this stuff. It's really good for me to know that because when you've carved out your own thing, right, you really want people to see that it's that they can do it too, and that this how do we say it?
It's genuine, that it's genuine.
It's
Yes.
genuine, authentic. And when someone, and that 2-year-old thing, right, was the same thing as the innocence. And by the way, I think we speak for many people. This is again the innocence, and then being made to feel as though this is actually something else that's dark. Because when you don't see light and dark, what does any of it mean? This goes back to your first point. This is actually the most thickest veil is the duality of good and evil. When you're here dancing around like a little child, but you're made to feel dirty for that, which is really your own choice to experience that, because how else would you have the evolutionary tension to basically transmute that for the collective? You have the responsibility to not fall into fake compassion by trying to keep someone that doesn't want to be awake or asleep.
Yes.
It's so easy to fall into fake compassion. And when you see it in yourself, you see it in the others. And the
But
same
that's
goes for
not really compassion, though, right? When I'm saying compassion, I'm talking the universal aspect of compassion. I am not talking the way we talk to other humans. That is not, you know that. I know you do. Um, I studied, actually, I studied it in depth, the 9 aspects that are part of us. So compassion is massive and it's huge, but it's also understanding and recognizing that there's no such thing as narcissism, which I know people are going to have a really hard time hearing that, especially those who are suffering in relationships where they perceive the other person as being that way. It's recognition that they too have created that space. They've said, you can treat me this way. It's okay. And
yeah.
how do we know that we've said it's okay? Because you're still there. You're still in that space. And that's really where you are. You're still in that space where you're saying, sure, go ahead, send me this information. And I'm not going to continue on my journey. I'm going to hold. And when we hold, we're saying yes to narcissism, which doesn't even exist. We're saying yes to fear. And
Well, yeah, I was going to say we always receive what we fear about ourselves deep down.
yep,
And again, it feels it's easy as well to come up with guilt and say, "Oh, I'm stuck." What it feels like actually is a purging, right? It's actually there's so much in that is just connected as if I'm not even in the body, which can be difficult at times. But it's because you see the positive. I don't want to use the word positivity. The visceral feeling because of this is because it's coming up and out. It served its purpose, even right. The
yes.
whole body, everything. as soon as you fall into why, it's more just like it's on its way out, and like rocket fuel, it comes behind you when you actually release it. So what's happening at the moment is the rocket fuel is being kept in because you're not wanting to create too much drama, because that rocket fuel going up can't help but do what everyone else has done on the edge of consciousness, is to pierce a hole through.
Yeah.
So it's as if, okay, this sounds kind of strange. How do I say this? It's this often you're on the verge of an universal orgasm, right?
Yep.
Let's just this, and you're holding it in almost because you now get to choose how it's released, in what direction as well. But also the fear is still in there that doesn't want to do
Mm.
it because it wants to make sure people are comfortable within it, and then the blame game comes back online. So you can always come into this whole craze, oh yeah, I'm doing it because I want to direct it. That's one aspect from one little place. But then the human inside is terrified because it will burn up the human. It will burn up the old race
And
of
that's
self.
it. And it can no longer exist, right? It's never going to be forgotten,
Mm.
right? But you can't take it with you.
No, it's too heavy on the ship.
It's too heavy and you can't, there's no room for where you're going,
Mm.
right? And that's really what they're saying is you spend so much time apologizing and preemptively apologizing that you're taking up valuable real estate in your vibration, in your personal soul vibration, but also in the work that you're doing. There's so much valuable real estate taken up in this. I need you to be okay with this. I'm moving into this. Let me talk gently. Let me talk, in a calm way that allows you to flow into this with me. And they're saying, nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope, no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If narcissism was a thing, if it ever somehow managed to become a solid entity in the universe, that would be the closest to it, would be false
Yeah.
promises of what you truly want, because we're always getting what we want. So part of me loves the juice of drama, just to that degree.
Yep.
But the other 90% that had rocketed to this far has become so much more, it just knows what it wants. And okay, I agree with so heavily with the just the juice of pretending that you want to go further, but that is black and white. But at the same time, the contrast is so dense now of what it feels like to not do that. So that when that gets blown through in deeper ways, the next person that has that exact archetype, it's not as dense
That's
because
right.
you've blown through the snow. And the same for me, right? The beings that are helping us, Yeshua. Imagine if you came here bef before Yeshua had done the same thing of planting the Christ seed and not of blowing through those energetic condensations. It would feel you'd just be hitting a wall. So it's almost as if, as well, we fear the ease of it because it's actually so much effort to keep in that stage. So I
Yes.
think here has been actually it's not effort to go ahead. The gravity is the other way around. It's actually pulling us all up, and we
Yep.
love to hold on.
It's exhausting to stay where you are,
That's why
right?
courage, yeah, exactly. What is courage? Courage is the willingness to let go of struggle, which is actually the most ease in the world. And I would say people actually fear ease more than anything.
It's the thing we want the most, and yet we're not willing to go for it because that means we don't know the answers. We don't have all of the understanding. And it's so we play the game and we play and it's not because we want to. And that's really the most important thing to recognize and understand is we've been taught to. And this world, like humans originally were not like this. We didn't come through Adam and Eve and that whole thing. That's just another story. It's another story that tries to, and honestly, I'm now in like a 3-year exploration of like ancient humans were far, far different than we are now. We had full awareness. We didn't have the density. This is the fifth iteration of human existence. So this is the densest, easy for me to say, densest we've ever been. We're rising not to go back to where we were, but to move into a new awareness, right? We've never, ever been this dense and then risen. The creator has always stopped it and then started again. But this is the first time where he says, nope, we're not going to end it because I believe in humanity. I believe in the greatness. And that's where you are. You know, Matt, you're in this place of resurrecting into your greatness, and it scares the crap out of you because it means you have to let go and shed all those pieces of you that you still want to hang on to and bring forward that are other people's ideas. And, you know, he says, this is the creator. And he says, don't be scared of yourself anymore
Mhm.
because inside of you is a magic. And when I use the word magic, I mean a level of vibration universally that can speak to the souls of those who are ready to hear. And if you don't use it, you can't reach them.
Mhm.
So some will come with you, some won't, because they're not ready and they will find someone else. That's
Mhm.
fine. But it is being willing to recognize that your greatness is calling and it's your job to now answer and participate.
Yeah, this is a major checkpoint for that.
Yep.
Aside from again, I think we both know this is completely, it's nice to be devoid of the old human emotion, but to actually know the powerful nature of cosmic vibration, which is just so aligned with truth, to the point where the rocket fuel is, again, the same thing that I was given before in a message was at the fifth iteration, this is the time to go non-physical to bridge the worlds, where the quasi-physical is so, that's what actually ties in with the narcissism as well, because you start to leave the density of physicality, especially around relationship, right? You don't value physicality. You can allow this to become a projection of basically disowning humanity, but actually your passion is the evolved humanity that you know. This is why I said in the recent video, at a certain point, we won't speak anymore. It will be complete telepathic, right? Even sex, to me, I know I came in here as well to revolutionize just this specific definitions around the paradigm of sex that is so physical right now.
Yes.
It's so old. And every time we blow it out, it feels so good because the creator just, you're just told what feels good. So those two things is basic confirmation to stop messing around really with believing your own ideas of what it means to be compassionate, because
Yep.
you get honest with yourself, it feels so compassionate to be authentic, which is actually, if only if 1% here, you know, it's far more in your alignment than to try and cater to the 99, because then you're not forming that bridge. So again, the other message came out the other day was like, you chose that archetype to experience what it's like, right? You're not really in that archetype.
100%. Yep. Yeah.
So,
And the other, you know, a lot of people misconstrue authenticity with being real, but
mm,
authenticity means of true origin.
mm,
It means you're honoring the origins of who we were created to be. And we were given the opportunity to have a physical experience, but now we've become imprisoned by the
mm,
physical experience. And that's what we're releasing and we're overcoming. But it's recognition that we're not leaving it. We're not removing ourselves from it. We're allowing ourselves to regain our universal awareness and our capacities and our abilities that we were always meant to embody in physical form. So, you know, that interspecies communication and then in like universal communication, these were always meant to be. It's only since we've been taught there's classified information, there's hidden information. There's no such thing. There's no such thing, right? And then of course you bring in the telephone because you can't communicate any other way, right? Like it's all these different things that are going to slowly go. You know, my belief is I knew the internet would be dying very, very soon. It's not going to take very long. And it was really cool because when AI came out, I think it was about a year ago, I was like, oh, we've got about 2 years left of internet where it's still trusted.
mm,
And everyone was like, oh, you're crazy. And I'm like, just watch
mm,
because no one's going to trust anything on the internet anymore because AI is rampant. And then I just heard this week a friend of mine said the professors in universities are not trusting that the students are actually writing their papers because they're all using AI to write their papers. it's crumbling from the inside out, but it has to.
Segue just really quickly. Also, do you have to
Yeah.
leave, by the way?
Very soon, yes. Yes.
We pick this up in a different time, but this ties in very quickly with the time of machines, right? Coming back
Yep.
in, noticing what time to incarnate, realizing AI is coming in, this coming in, quick, get in the body. And then to see that what you're highlighting was potentialities to basically not go down the same route of the other races of just fixating on technology as the hybridization of consciousness to be able to be housed within something. So here is being basically the choice point came up, right? Because at times I find it so difficult to stay in the body because it's as if I've asked for a pathway basically to come up. I've
Yep.
asked for basically a what do you call it? Like not a special thing, but to be able to basically try something out, an experiment, which leaves the body and almost because the whole point of our incarnations when we're in the time of machines is to show the potentialities of the power of consciousness, right? To not take on just the chip and the thing and the thing. It's actually to show that you don't need that. That's so dense and small compared to what the power of consciousness is. So part of demonstration has been to actually start to step into the ascended mastery like they have, to be able to just, because right now, the only reason I'm staying in the body and not just shifting to behind you in your room is because I don't know, the density of the gravity, but we can transport ourselves wherever, right? We can just go out the body, in the body.
Yep.
We don't have to speak if we don't want to, but the people listening won't be able to understand what we're transferring in energy. So here it's like, stop speaking, and why not just go into ascended mastery while embodied and start shifting around? Is that going to cause too much insanity? Like, is that part
No,
of
it
demonstration?
won't cause insanity, but you won't relate to others in a way that you're meant to, because embodying your greatness means becoming that in this physical world still, which that was a great question because that's the dynamic is, I just want to keep going and I don't want to really be here. But it's not because you're sad. It's this I want to be in this raised vibration all the time. And it's really cool because as you were talking, your soul said, okay, so your journey over the next month, okay, your challenge that they want you to is accepting your greatness, so zero apologizing while remaining in the body. So when you journey through the energy, have awareness of your body at the same time. Take your body with you on your journey. This is going to be a massive challenge for you. Most people are not going to understand, but that's okay because they're not at the level of journeying that you are at. You can literally transcend time and space, the physical aspects, all physical aspects of being, your body included. And most people won't have an understanding of that. So, but what your soul and Jesus, so Jesus did this when he was here and he said, it's gonna be fun. And he says all aspects. So be in both places at the same time. Be in full conscious universal awareness wherever you're journeying, while also being in your body, because that's what we came here to do.
That's the answer that was.
Yeah.
Answer isn't the right word. Confirmation is so beautiful because the wound that comes up is actually thinking that leaving the body was the way, but actually realizing, shit, I've lost the body now, and it's basically the masculine pursuit without the feminine, because the feminine's down and in, and the masculine's up and out. And and the reason this incarnation has been so feminine skewed, even though the masculine is so strong in its focus, is because look, don't do that again. There is a way of being which is the passion is so fun. This is why it's almost like the child's like there'll be others as well. It's not, we know it's not just like us right on the forefront, but
Yep.
to at least start, because I know it's possible, right? When I get on an airplane, I think, why were we on an airplane? Like it's because we're playing out these things, but at the same time, anyone can just go straight back to the cosmic. That's not the mastery of the non-tangible aspects of mastery, which is this
Got it.
awareness within here. So otherwise, the people that are starting to speak Mandarin, if you start speaking Japanese already how we need this middle language, which this is why I've got a whole notes as well of a whole new language, like glossary and dictionaries, because we're giving words to this quasi space. And if you go too far the other way, it's not even fun either. It's
No,
so hard to then try and take back on the body. And so often I've left the body and it's not comfortable. It's not even relatable. It does come across narcissistic because you're so used to up here, you're not relating. Again, narcissism is a thing. Even when I speak, right, I speak at a level because the frequency picks up and you can't even be,
yep,
and then you have to move back down. So
I
it's
understand.
right.
I do. And that's why he's saying right now that's your challenge is to master being in both places at the same time. And he says it's going to blow your mind,
Mm,
literally blow your mind, because all the things you thought you were leaving behind are actually going to become new, exciting, and joyful again.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And the
And
things that you want are going to come in a different way that
yeah.
you never imagined would be possible.
Because I'll let you go, by the way, but it ties in so perfectly with, it sounds strange, but the frustration, okay, the frustration's there, but the frustration's also a beautiful thing because it knows what's to come. Linking in with the quasi-physical, the visions as well that come of what's to come is nice because they're just potential timelines on how you want to experience that. But also at the end of this, because in Ascended Mastery, choosing it at the time of the machines, there's also the self-perpetual eternal regeneration of certain chakra points that are starting to open up, where it's not just traveling via thought, it's not just, time travel, and basically stepping into free time where time is a thing in your hand, right?
Yeah.
Time, you're not in time. Time, I can move, go back to here to change something in the past, which is right now, to be able to help something in the future, which is also right now. But also in physicality, the technology that's dormant in the body is perpetual self-regeneration, where I won't have to take incarnation again, which I'm so excited about because then you can just choose to
Yes.
appear to appear to people as well. And this is going to sound really strange. Maybe not much of this needs to be made public, but appearing to certain people of monumental figure, let's say not the president of the United States, but in the same way that I've seen it happen before, is to be able to have this kind of impact because now we're in
Yeah.
the humanity, the free will is not being overridden as an ET. So now being able to appear to people is an ascended mastery, not to have influence, but also, it sounds weird as well, to be able to direct channeling to certain people who's in power to not sway them, but to shine potentialities for decisions they can make, which prefer the timeline that is chosen. So it's almost as if I'm on the edge of this. It feels like ascended mastery where I can do so much better from a different point of view, but it's not the same. It's tried that before, and the non-physical. It's almost as like you don't have much weight, because if you're
Yes.
in physicality, you're like you have a weight
Yep.
to you, right?
Yep.
So this is like a potentiality which has come a potential that's shined on. Imagine if you had the weight of biology with the ability to to walk between the worlds. That's
Yes.
what's coming up.
Exactly what it is about right now. That's exactly where you're going. And the next time you share it, the hope and the goal is that you will not say this is going to sound kind of strange before you say it. That you're just going to be like, I feel, and then you'll share it.
Yeah,
So that you're no longer worrying. Do you feel that, right?
yeah.
You're ready, Matt. You have all the wisdom. You have it. It's right there. Go be it. Go be it. Don't feel shame. Don't worry about what other people feel because those who are ready want to have these conversations because it feels so awesome and it lights us up and it keeps us going, right? It keeps us energized. And, you know, this today with you, it fills me and makes me go, yep. Yep.
Yeah,
This makes sense. Like
yeah.
my life makes sense and where I'm going makes sense.
Yeah,
You
it's the
know?
attempt gradient. The gradient doesn't need to be a ramp anymore. And especially in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, who's listening to this? I want to make sure to give them a chance. But what gets solidified in terms of conviction is if if I have to give someone a ramp, then they're not ready, right?
You got
Then
it.
that's the perfect way. And if anything, this whole lone wolf mentality gives way to this, well, it's not going to be a lone wolf because there'll be those, even if it's two or three, you start to appearing to each other in different random places. What I've started to realize is I've gone to locations not because of anything there, but because that will be important soon. And I've mapped the coordinates because you can only shift to a place because you know the sense of that place. So when you identify so strongly with that place, you find yourself there.
Yep.
So what's happened in the Andes, because as the you must know about this as well, as the masculine thinks the feminine on the planetary sphere, from to the antipode to Tibet is right at the location right that I was at. So it was a symbolism of the feminine era and anchoring down the energies to there to also be able to shift there whenever I like now. Because I sat there and it was definitely Yeshua's energy came and sat next to me, and the dog came up to me from a previous life. We'd been together for so long. And I was like, feel into the sounds, the smells, the taste, and how you're feeling right now. Because you can't think your way into instant travel. It's so much about consciousness, not the mind. So the
It's
mind,
leaving the mind. Like when I go in, the mind has to turn off. I've traveled all over the world through vibration, and I've had the most incredible experiences. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And the more we embrace the fact that we experience that awareness, that universal communication and connection with our physical bodies. And that's the part where it's like, no, I'm traveling through the vibration, through the energy. I'm not really there, but you are there. It is your physical body that gives you the ability. Do you feel that?
that's the
Yeah.
preciousness of humanity that we don't realize. I made a recent video again, which I made private because I wasn't sure it was ready to go. But we forgot the reason of coming down to this density as well at times. Or I think I say we, because we set it up. That's why you look at the Egyptian symbols as the actual dormant potential technology within the body to allow to hold basically how I saw it and how I was shown was a potentiality to hold the masculine and feminine equal polarity to basically be revealed as the center point of the entire universe, as above, so below, to basically show that masculine and feminine is one. And that's the same,
Yeah.
then the good and the bad stop as well. Because people think that black and white or good and bad is the most tight duality, but the most primal one was masculine and feminine, light sound. And
Funny, eh? Yeah. And a lot of people come, and how I've always seen, for me, when I see masculine and feminine, I see masculine as our comfort level with our beingness, and feminine as our ability to flow through universal energy. So being present on a universal level and flowing through that experience and vibration, right? I haven't, for me, because I have not studied anything from a mental perspective, I have only done it with universal beings. It keeps it really simple. There's not I don't use a lot of words um, that,
that's Magdalene has
yeah.
been, that's what she keeps coming back because as a universal being, we didn't understand the frequency of how to actually put it into words. But that's what she's so good at. That's why she's so with it all because that union is it that is it to basically activate. I've got two chakra points which have been dying to open, and they're in the shoulder blades. They're not past they're past the crown, and they're the 10 and the 11 and the 12. And when I researched them, I could only find one teacher speaking on it, Almeen, and she was talking about, and it was the exact thing. As soon as that chakra's opening, the clairvoyance, the ability to not just shift where you are in astral projection, but to actually materialize the physical body wherever you want, because everything is just energy. There is no limit
Hmm.
to
It's, yep. Now, what is your experience so far? How open are they? One, two. Hmm.
they feel wounded in a
Hmm.
way as if they try to open them, and because they're to do with clairvoyance, it's almost like a witch wound, which ties in with trying to make sure I apologize for the
Yeah.
strangeness.
Do you want me to open them? Here's
Yes,
the
please.
thing. When I do it, it's going to be a couple weeks of, I'm going to use the word insanity, but what I mean is there's going to be a lot of experiences and situations that are going to be like, did that really just happen? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. It's going to be intense. A week, it's they're saying 2, potentially 3 weeks of intensity. Um, so they just want you to know that. I mean, you're good with that, but it's recognition that you're going to feel and see things more deeply than you have ever before. But you'll also, it basically what we're doing is it's like plugging you back into your specific personal connection with directly with the soul of the universe so that you can receive that guidance and awareness without so much effort. So
Mm.
what will happen is it will make it easier that you won't need to apologize because there's that constant stream. It will just never run out. It's like being fully charged all the time. Does that make
That's
sense?
That's what was being asked of is not just do you want that, but do you know the implications of adjusting to that
Yep.
as well? Because this whole thing with the apologies, this is why I kept coming up, was that something didn't feel off that I had to put effort in. That's why it was great to connect with you on the sense of ease, because when that's there, the only reason we're at this stage is because of the forgetfulness of effort. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. So here as
Yes.
well, again, what came to me, the beings that are here as well, when you're describing the insanity, is actually as well what you're saying. The insanity is releasing all of this strange effort, and that's what it feels like it's coming. And the ease is what is not really trusted
Yes.
to a deeper level. So here, what's so beautiful is I am the master of laziness, which is great in terms of that, the laziness around effort, but it's not a mastering of anything in particular. It's because there's so much contrast on the pain of that of those old densities. And I'm so ready for that to open, I feel.
Okay.
Um,
So take a deep breath for me and just relax your body. I'm just there. It's a deep connection with your heart that, yes. So if you feel the awareness, they're in your shoulder blades, but it's a recognition they're in your back. It's how you receive universal awareness in. And the important part and the part that most people overlook is it's deeply connected with your heart in the front, which is how you project what you learn out into the world. And it's that connection that has been severed and it's now reconnected. Okay. Um, so that, and they're winding, like the energies from both are winding around your heart. Now they're going down through all of the physical extremities, through the central nervous system, through all of the veins, all of the cells. It's that reconnection with self that you've been craving because it's that comfort level of I can keep going and let go of the trauma and the drama that continued to want to carry you. And now it's releasing that, right? And this is the thing is most people think releasing is letting something go, but it's not. It's embracing where you're going that releases the trauma. You
Okay,
can,
so that completely of 7 days ago of basically was this energy around the back, but it was
yep,
if like a tunnel between the heart or like the veins between the heart and the back thing were severed. But then as soon as the heart started, and I call it a sense, right? It was a sense, and it started to flood like this. And suddenly it was as if whatever was, because I call it frozen rather than severed, but the same thing.
yep.
The frozenness melted, and it started to the auric field felt like it changed, and those chakra points now had a different embodiment of a fullness within the heart that was almost as if it was just circling around the back, and it felt quite cold, and it was frozen in the chakra points. But it was to do with the heart opening, that there's a fear around that heart opening in the same way of the
Yep.
chakra points, because you knew what it meant
And
on a
now
different.
it's in your digestive, which is your relationships, right? Your relationship with yourself. It's right in that. Um, so you may find some, yeah, and now they're going into reproductive. So right down to the perineum. It's very, it's complete. That's what they want you to understand is this process is complete. So there's not going to be any missing pieces where a lot of people will think, okay, something feels off, there must be a piece missing. There's no more pieces missing. If something feels off, it's your approach needs to come back into alignment, right? So balance, and that's healing, right? Healing isn't fixing something, it's, oh, restore balance, restore balance, restore balance. Okay. And they're showing me a lot to do with your senses, your five senses. Smell and taste are going to be massively significant in the next 3 to 5 weeks, massively. Use it to your advantage because when something smells off, whether it's food, whether it's drink, whether it's location, it's because you're not meant to be there. You're not meant to be putting that in. Honor it. Don't feel uncomfortable that you have to say to someone, I really don't give them the long-winded. Just say, oh, I'm not feeling hungry right now. Okay. You're going to get really, really comfortable in not apologizing for feeling the way you feel.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's completely lined up as well. That's all that came through was one using the senses you have, but also the dormant senses, which almost work with. So, like remote viewing, for example, sounds strange. People tend to think it's the eyes, right? They're seeing something, but it's the smell, the taste, the touch. But then also, how how do I describe this? How we can only see violet as the top color. We can't see all the other colors we can't see. The same way with the senses. Let's say the highest sense, you could say the most wise sense is eyes. There's also a
Yes.
sense. Me and a friend actually started, who I think is another ascended master right now, started writing out senses that we don't even know what they are, but we're given names to them that are coming online as well. So like a sense, let's say you had an organ here that you can't actually see, or an organ that's not even alive right now. That's what
Yep.
was coming in as well. So, but it sounds good about the senses that are already here. Basically, like you say, healing isn't fixing, it's actually trusting where you are already and trusting the intuition of the impulse, which it seems too easy to trust at times. But that's what is growing in conviction, not because you've learned it, because you've seen what it's like to actually put that in your mouth and then have to digest it when it's not for you,
You have
right?
wisdom. Wisdom is experience and knowledge together, right? And it's recognition that where you are right now, we're like so far at a time. I have to go, but you're not an ascended master. Ascended masters are those who came and they exist strictly in the fifth dimension to raise vibration, but they cannot reach the depths and heights that you've already gone. So,
That's what I'm looking into is stepping into that. That's what I'm looking to. So
mm-mm,
when you don't want not stepping into ascended mastery now.
mm-mm. No, because that's a physical, um, we'll have to have a whole episode about this, honest to goodness.
Can I,
Ascended
can I
mastery is a human physical perspective of a goal we're striving towards.
okay.
You've already surpassed that. That's why so many things are, it doesn't make sense. There's certain parts where you're like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And then you're like, oh, but I got to bring it back because this belief is here, this ascended mastery.
This is perfect because what sounds like it's actually as well a more of a I'll let you go. A redefining of that, where it's not that ascended mastery is next, it's that because of the time on the planet, the thing, sure, that may have been a thing, enlightenment, take the initiation, but here it's because of the potentiality of the energies. Ascended mastery, if this was at this level, let's say Yeshua's time, it would have been taken. But it doesn't make sense to you because the intention was not to do that. It was to bridge the worlds rather than just to walk the bridge
Yep.
and not look back at the world. So
50
that makes
years ago, ascended mastery was a thing. It was helpful then. Now, and you've already gone beyond it, which is the part where it's that, okay, and then you bring yourself back into alignment with it. So you move, take this massive step forward in universal awareness and, you have this wisdom because again, wisdom is experience plus knowledge. So you have this experience, you go deep into the energy, you extract this wisdom, and now you're embodying it. And then you're like, oh, I got to bring it back to ascended mastery perspective. And you just ground all of it and you cut the potential out of it.
have a visceral remembrance. I sat with a man, Saint Germain. You know Saint Germain.
Yes,
It
I
was
do.
in a European, like a mystery school, and it was like, right, next one. Like I go up, you stay down, like this. So almost like you're going to be feeling very resonant with the ascended mastery because that's what you've been surpassing and going to it between. Don't give in to the temptation of old pursuit. Notice that in this, there's such a teamwork with Saint Germain. Like there's such, and certain friends I have as well. It's as if we just remember that. Maybe I'm projecting that onto him, but there's something so visceral about European mystery schools, and I'm not sure if that's coming up as a story that I've told myself, or just something that just now is starting to make sense about the ascended mastery was always going to be something that was fixated on because it was being taught so many times, and it's in the memory of the soul. But it feels like as well now the frustration as well was, what was that it? Like there's something about the potential that's so exciting in this walking between the worlds that if not achieved, there'll be a slight regret. Not achieved, if not embodied without apology, will be a slight regret because you remember to take in this little thought that said, remember, 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 the
Yeah.
embodiment of that as well.
Yeah. Hmm. You, okay. We are going to have another call because there are some massive conversations that need to happen for both of us. But not have to happen in a way of like, you need this. It's a, you've been searching. And, sometimes we do, right? We get into a belief system where, and then what happens is we perpetuate it and it blocks us without even us thinking it's blocking us because we genuinely believe that belief is taking us further forward. And so what I'd love is to clear up a whole bunch of them in a call because I've seen so many people come with them um, in different capacities, but yours is unique in that you've already surpassed this long ago. Like they're showing me 8 or 9 years ago, and yet you keep coming back to it because your awareness and your ability.
Feels like a place to give words to it, and then the story creates some, which then becomes a blockage. It's actually may have served in a certain way, but it's almost like, well, I can't find the next raft, if
Yes,
that makes.
yes. And we're going to, what we'll do is we're going to clear up so you don't need a raft anymore, so that you can actually exist in comfort in your own vibration without the need for um,
Reasoning.
physical support, which is in this sense, it's reasoning, right? It's all of these dynamics. It's recognition that the physical form will be in joy no matter what you offer it. And it's allowing that experience to unfold. This is a high vibration conversation. It's not going to be for everybody. And that's brilliant because those that it is for are going to completely understand the conversation on all levels. So, Matt, thank you. I have to go. I apologize, but I have loved every minute of our conversation. And I really hope you'll come back and we can continue further talking about all things you and universal at the same time.
It's been incredible. It's been yeah, it just gives so many words, and also the refreshing nature of coming into contact with someone that sees what you see is unspeakable. It's really beautiful actually, because you never lose that trust that what you see is what's coming to come. But when a reflection in the field is seeing the same thing, it's placed there because whatever you need is that evolutionary tension to actually have a valve to go.
Yes.
And the reflection actually allows the bundle of energy to actually be released because you know it's safe, because someone else, it's not just you seeing it. Someone actually has
Yes.
words for it as well and has connections in that way. So
Feels
it's,
good. It just
yeah,
feels good, right? And
yeah.
it's interesting because my understanding of original ancient humans is we didn't act in collective groups, which is what people seem to want the most right now. But what
Um,
we're demonstrating today is, and what you've even said, it can be just a couple people, but it's recognition on a soul level and a universal level of just existence. And there's zero need for drama. There's zero need to for expectations. There's nothing. It just is, and anything can be said. There's no judgment. It's beautiful. And that's how we grow as humans is by having these amazing conversations, right?
that's such a thick overlay. And I know again, but just the collective belief of ascension as one. or something. It's the sovereignty of the God sovereign being, which is so much more aligned with the potency of what it means to ascend, we
Yes.
know ascension isn't leaving anywhere. It's actually just swiping where you are. And it's so different to this strange Atlantean community feel, which is the one thing that has been broken apart here to the point where I've actually gone into communities and they've sometimes disbanded because you've come in with such a frequency of sovereignty and you wonder, community is a delay to a certain point. It's a support, but then, right, I don't need to be around you. I can meet you over here if I want. We're universal beings. We can go anywhere. Like, this is what the creator wanted, was the embodiment of infinity, not
Yes.
a collection of people to kind of embody oneness. Like, we can throw oneness out and see the oneness with yourself, and I can meet you in that oneness of
Yes.
sovereignty, not not fake joining over the edge of oneness to try and reach out. It's so different,
It's
and that's
so
what's powerful.
beautiful. Yeah, I just had a lovely vision into, what I have struggled with over the last 20 years is I always am on my own. Always, and
Yeah,
but you struggle with it because again, you see that belief system on the physical where it takes a community, it takes so many people to do this, and you have to, but really community supports our faults. It supports our fears. It supports why we can't do things. Rarely do you see it support monumental growth in stepping into greatness. It just, because you can't do that with other humans. You have to do it on your own. And yet it's important as humans to be able to have a space and humans that we can voice things to, because in our voice and sharing it, we grow by, yeah,
and there's an agenda to keep it in community, and
yeah,
that's what you have to oversee that because people want to romanticize relationship as well, which a whole
that's
new
a
relationship,
whole other level, right?
and that's being a 25-year-old male told what it means to be successful. It's been such a great thing to transmute for the collective as well, to say, oh, I've been out here on my own in the middle of the ant, there's no one around, and I finally admitted the gift of solitude without guilt. It was solitude with guilt, now it's solitude without guilt, and now if I have a relationship, it's because I'm meeting in a celebration of solitude,
Yes,
not a celebration of us joining in each other. And that
yes.
was never learned. It was just the guilt was gone finally. Like,
Oh, I
it,
love that.
you
I
can't
love
learn.
that. I love that. It's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Okay. I thank you with
Yeah,
all of
thank
my being for being here, for being so open, for sharing your heart, your soul, your journey, and for allowing me to see inside of you and to be a part of your journey. I thank you. And until the next time, Matt, thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you so much for holding that frequency as well. It's so high. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more, head on over to michellevickers.com. Join our mailing list to receive new episodes right to your inbox or apply to be a guest on the show. If this episode made you think of someone while you were listening, forward the link onto that person with a little note about why it made you think of them, because the greatest gift you can give another human is to see the beauty and purity of who they truly are. Until next time, stay curious.